We're going to move on right to our next speaker. Our next speaker today is Kitty Werner, and she's with the Digitize Oconto County project. She's the Oconto County historian and webmaster for the Oconto County Historical Society, Oconto County Genealogical Society, and Digitize Oconto County. She enjoys doing genealogy for her own family, as well as helping others with theirs, and she believes that newspapers are a great resource that need to be made available. So she's going to tell you all about the Digitize Oconto County project. Welcome, Kitty.
Hi. Okay, so like Katie just said, I've been involved with the Oconto County Genealogical Society and the Oconto County Historical Society for many years. I've been on their boards. I've been the OCGS president. I've been a guide at the museum, and now I've been the county historian for 10 years. Can't believe it's been that long, but which doesn't require any kind of special education. It's just somebody who will answer the questions that come in and do the research for it. Next slide. Yes. Okay. I was asked to give a presentation on Digitize Oconto County. First of all, I want to say that we're a very small operation. I so envy the larger groups that I've been seeing on the slide show there. But it is very possible to do digitizing on a small scale. This is a preview of what the end product looks like. So this is the home page that explains the project and how to sponsor issues. And then next slide. This is the actual search page that when you put in the search criteria, it will highlight where it is. Like right here, I put in Ginty so that you could see it there. So I'll show more about this at the end of my presentation. Next slide. Roughly 10 years ago, the printer on the printer on the microfilm reader at the local library, Farnsworth Library here, stopped working. So the whole machine was getting so old that it was hard to repair. The bulbs were getting hard to replace. So some of us who used it a lot began talking about whether to try to replace it or if we should look into digitizing. I don't know how many of you might have a machine like this. The reader does still work, but the printer doesn't. Next slide. So in 2013, Jake and Connie Jacobs from the Genealogical Society attended a Riscarda Scan Day. Riscarda is a nonprofit organization that has a free open source program that converts files to make them searchable with optical character recognition, or OCR. And they also can digitize audio and video files, so that those of you that are doing that might want to look into that. Next slide. The Riscarda Foundation supports the creation of local cultural archives by holding events called Scan Days. The community is invited to bring historic documents, photographs, and objects to be digitized and added to the local digital archive, like a library or a historical society. The person bringing the materials is given a disk containing the digital objects and then the metadata worksheet. The digitized items are then hosted on a website. It is helpful to have Riscarda bring in all the different scanners you might need. They have all different sizes and slide scanners and everything. And people get their items back right away, so they don't have to feel uncomfortable with leaving it with the organization. But you can scan items yourself and process it through Riscarda yourself. Next slide. The Jacobs then contacted the Door County Library, who had already begun the process of digitizing their collection of newspaper archives. So Door County has a county library system, so they were able to get the support of the county board for financing. But Oconto County doesn't have a county library system, so it would have been hard to coordinate the funding between the libraries. However, Some of the libraries and friends of the libraries have donated to the project since we got going. A librarian from Door County came to Oconto to share their process with a group of the library directors and other interested people in Oconto County. And a committee was formed with Jake and Connie, the Farnsworth Library director, and myself. Next screen. So although any item can be scanned, we started with microfilmed newspapers because that was our big thing, was because our machine wasn't working. So after research, it was decided to use the Wisconsin Historical Society for digitization. Part of their mission is to preserve newspapers from around the state. So they've, for many years, have gotten copies from around the state, and they've microfilmed those issues through 2008. And since then, they've create CDs with PDFs. Then the libraries could buy copies of those scanned files, which is what we have been using at Farnsworth. The Historical Society's copies don't circulate, so they are in perfect condition. Using the commercial companies would require sending the library copies, which are used, so not in the best condition, and they would not be available for the time they are being digitized. So what I do is the Historical Society has a page on their website that you can search for all the microfilms that they have. I find the reels that I want to have processed, and then I email an order to them. Next screen. The committee calculated the costs involved with the server and the digitization and determined a cost per issue. This amount was used to set a sponsorship price of $3 per issue. Brochures were designed, this is it, and a PowerPoint presentation was developed to show to various groups to solicit donors. So I went to the Chamber of Commerce, to the Kiwanis, to other libraries, various places. Individual issues are tagged with a sponsor's name and dedication. And you'll see that later too. We were fortunate that Jake had worked for IBM and knew how to deal with all that tech issues, including writing code. He arranged with the Oconto County Courthouse to host a server and provide internet connection and some tech support. The Genealogical Society paid for the server to be at the courthouse. The Historical Society took Digitize under its purview for the 501c3 status, the nonprofit. We got permission from the owners of the newspapers in the county to digitize all the way through current issues. Otherwise, it's a public domain years of 1922 or something. However, Jake is now gone. They moved away, and then he has since died. So sometimes I have problems with managing the technology. I can only go so far. We also have a different director at Farnsworth. So the committee is a committee of one, me. It mostly runs smoothly, but I'm very thankful that John Friend at the Historical Society and John Sarnowski at Riscarda and the IT team at the courthouse keep it going for me. It would probably be helpful for you to find someone who can know a little more about it. I made a document with screenshots for a step-by-step tutorial. So if you end up using TeamViewer or Riscarda, I can send it to you. But for now, I'll just hit the highlights. TeamViewer is an app that allows remote access to another computer. It's free for personal or nonprofit use. I did discover earlier this year that if for some reason they start to think that you're a commercial company, they will block you. So you just have to go on their website and say, no, we're nonprofit, and they'll put it back on for you. You download it on each computer, and you just need the partner ID to log in. So this is how I access the server at the courthouse. And of course, if you're not going to use a remote computer, if you're just going to use the one at your museum or whatever, then you wouldn't need TeamViewer at all. Next. So a window with the desktop of the remote computer pops up, just like your own desktop. And you can arrange it and maneuver around it the same as you would on your own. When the Historical Society finishes scanning the issues, they send it to a folder on our server at the courthouse using an FTP. That ended up being a problem when the Historical Society had some computer issues, and he ended up with a different computer that he didn't have the FTP site information anymore, and I don't know what it is. So what he ended up doing was sending the files to me, and then I could send them to the courthouse. So there are workarounds. And then also that's what you would do if you scan things yourself. Okay, Riscarda is a downloaded app. And so the 4 gray boxes there are the ones that you would use. There's a metadata creation tool, a data conversion tool, a collections manager, and an indexer, and they're used in that order. Next screen. Okay, the metadata creation is the most labor intensive. You need to put in the title, the issue date, and any notes like the sponsorship. The program does have copy to next screen at the bottom when you're done with it. And so you don't have to keep typing the title and the note if it stays the same. And you can get into a pretty good rhythm of just tabbing down to the next thing and putting in, tabbing down and clicking continue. Then you would use the data conversion tool that the computer does the work of processing it all. So that's the longest part, but it's the computer working. So, you don't have to worry about it. It does depend, I'm sure, on your server, but when I've done a reel, it can take a day or more to process it. Then the other tools are the data collection manager. It adds the reel to the collection, which is a little more user input. And then the computer indexes it, and neither of those take very long at all. So when the issues are finished being processed with all of those 4 things, I log into the website on my own computer and upload the information. So this was the screen that I showed you before, the search screen, actually. It's a quick process of doing that. And now I can show you how this actually works. Although other groups have theirs open to the browse collections part, we found that what you really want to do is search. So we open to the simple search. It's a typical Boolean search request. You can add more criteria, near and you can add a date. I searched for George Farnsworth since he gave the money to build our library. So you'll see what kind of results we get with that. So over on the right side, just above the issue images, it says sort by publication date. It comes up as sorted by relevance, which I've never understood why that is, but I can't switch it to this. So I always change it to sort by publication date. And then you can also see under the images how it shows it's donated by somebody. It might be in honor of somebody, it might be whatever. So, okay. So I went to the 1903 issue that is about the dedication of the library. If there's more than one page with the search criteria, it'll have a yellow arrow at the top next to the little scissors. You can see that tells you what page you're on, and it goes right to the page where your search criteria was, and then you can go back and forth along the pages if there's more. Let's see. Then going farther over, you can zoom in or out with buttons, or if you double click, it will zoom in, and you'll still get a very clear image. The resolution is very good. You can search for other terms with the magnifier on the right, which I'll show you why you would need that. And you can print the whole page, which I don't know, unless you have very big paper, I don't know how that'd be helpful. And you can expand the page that removes the tabs at the top. So if you need a little bit more space to get that article in, I use that. Next page. So the scissors at the top there are the clipping tool on the app, and it's text only, as you can see. So if you just want the information, that works fine. It's very clear, but it doesn't work for pictures, and most people really want an image of the actual article rather than just the text. So next page, next. So using the snipping tool on your computer is a better way to go. It's in the apps on a PC, and I put it in my toolbar at the bottom, so it's always there. Or on a Mac, you use Command-Shift-4 and capture the area you want. You can also do a screenshot and then crop it. I find also that if I don't want the yellow highlight to show, I'll use that search function that I told you about before at the top of the page to find a word next to the article I actually want, and it'll go to that, and then I can snip the area that I actually want to have. Next page. Sometimes the word you're searching doesn't show the results you want. The name might not be spelled right, or as for a woman, it might just be Mrs. Brown or her husband's name, so you're not finding her. Or the app may just not pick up what you want. Riscarda does a pretty good job of decoding things, but it doesn't always work. So then using the browse titles works well. You can filter by title at the top. So we have all those different newspaper titles, or by date, or even by donor, which I found helpful when I want to make sure I've marked all of them correctly. So then after filtering to what date you want, you can use that search magnifier again to see if what you want is in the issue that you're trying to find. Sometimes you have to just read it anyway, but. Next, yes. Okay, there is that browse collections, though I haven't found that useful. I'm not sure why you'd want it there. You're always going to want to look, search it somehow. So I don't, it's not helpful for me. Then there are other kinds of features in this whole thing that can be useful. Okay, next. So Riscarda is used many places all over the country, and I even saw that they've presented at conferences in several places in Europe. I know that Door County and Algoma libraries around here use it. I talked with Shorewood Historical Society in 2018 about our process. They had talked to the Historical Society and they directed them to us. And they have since digitized almost 3,500 items and have included the yearbooks, loan directories, newsletters, newspapers. I'm amazed at how much they've managed to do. Riscarda has a PDF on its site of a presentation they give to groups about scan days. And in that, it has these sites for how their scan days turned out. It shows, like my Riscarda that I just showed you, but it has the pictures, the objects, whatever they scanned those days. Next slide. So the service providers. In Wisconsin, Northern Micrographics has been the one to do it in La Crosse, but as of tomorrow, they will be closed. They have worked with other companies to take care of all the services they did. So the Crowley Company in Maryland is going to continue providing their services to customers. So there's the Crowley Company. Indus is the one that is recommended by Riscarda on their site. I found BMI Imaging, Scanning America. I'm sure there are others. The pro is that it's faster to get images back, but it's going to be more expensive, and you have to send the items to them. They don't put a price on their websites because it depends on what you've got. You know, they just can't tell you without talking to you about exactly what you have. We talked earlier about the Oklahoma Correctional Industries. So they do the digital imaging, and it is less expensive, maybe even free, depending on what you have. So the Wisconsin Historical Society charges 15 cents per frame, which was the least expensive that we found. They have their own copies of the newspapers, so you don't have to send anything to them. Theirs don't circulate, so they're in perfect condition. It's less expensive, but it does take much longer to get the images back. When we first started about 6 years ago, we would get reels every month or so. We got quite a few at the beginning, and then it slowed down. And then in the fall of 2019, John told me that his full-time staff, he had 2 other people, I think, retired. And then we got COVID, so his student workers weren't there anymore. So at the moment, he is the person doing it. He said he's getting a part-time person, I guess, this summer. I'm not sure exactly when that is, or when this whole situation for them will change. But because of such a limited staff, they are currently not taking new clients. But if you can get your organization ready, get all that sort of thing that you need to get going before you even start to digitize, maybe by then they'll be ready for more people. So next screen, I've put the URLs for these various places that will be helpful. The Historical Society page, that goes right to the microfilm page. They talk all about it. Unfortunately, the page to search their microfilms right now is also having problems, or maybe they've just blocked it because they can't do anything with it now anyway. I'm not sure what that is. Then the Riscarda, the Scan Day presentation I put on there, it's buried a little deep. If you go into their Scan Day tab, they'll find it. It's like at the bottom of the page of Scan Days. And then TeamViewer, if you think you will need that. We actually are thinking about using TeamViewer at our county museum, because we have a logging camp that's in Lakewood that we want to have them be able to log into our computer to do Past Perfect, which we have gotten but have not done anything with yet. So that's it, I guess. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Kitty. As somebody who has ancestors in Oconto County, I use Oconto County or digitize Oconto County all the time. So I'm so thrilled that you guys have taken the time to undertake this and learn how to do it and put these newspapers online. You know, I've had to go to the Oconto County library before and try to use the microfilm, and it's like after a while, you know, cranking, and your arm gets tired, and it's so much easier just to be able to do it at home and search, especially with this last year where we've had, you know, to stay at home and not be able to access the library. It's been great to have this resource.
Yeah. I also want to mention I'm not exactly sure what it is, but for the hosting, if like we have the courthouse I don't know what all, you'd probably need a big server. So the Riscarda page has a recommendation for a hosting service as well. So talk to them, check with that.
Yeah, and John from Douglas County said to look at Splashtop for remoting into other servers or things like that.
I've never heard of that. I'll have to look into it.
Well, I don't think there's any questions, it looks like, but feel free to type into chat if you have any questions. Other than that, we can move on to our next presentation. And thank you again, Kitty, so much for sharing your information with us.
Welcome.